There's a point in the growth of a business where something quite strange starts to happen. Revenue is going up, the team is getting bigger, there are more customers, more opportunities, more things happening, and from the outside it looks like the business is scaling. But the founder is working harder than ever, and that's not scaling, that's just getting busier. There's a really important difference between the two. Because if every time the business grows, the founder has to work harder to support that growth, you haven't actually built leverage. You've built dependency. And I see this particularly in businesses that have got through those difficult early stages. They've kind of proved the product. They've found the customers. They've hired some good people. They might have 10, 20, 30 people working for them. And yet somehow everything still seems to find its way back to the founder. A customer has a problem. Someone asks the founder what to do. A salesperson wants to change the price. They ask the founder. Someone needs to make a hiring decision. The founder gets involved. There's an operational problem. The founder fixes it. A project, it starts slipping. The founder jumps in. And individually, none of those things feels particularly serious. In fact, quite often it feels responsible. You built the business. You know how it works. You can probably make the decision faster than anybody else. So you step in, problem solved. Except it isn't. Because every time you do that, something else happens. The organization learns that when something is difficult, uncertain or important, the answer is you. And that's how founder dependency gets built. Not through one enormous mistake, through hundreds of perfectly reasonable decisions. Eventually, you become the operating system of the business. You're carrying information that isn't written down. You're making decisions that don't have clear rules. You're joining conversations because people need your judgment. You're spotting problems because nobody else has the same visibility you have. And you're connecting parts of the organization that don't connect properly without you. Which means the business might be growing, but the organization isn't necessarily becoming more capable. There's a very simple way of testing this. Ask yourself, what happens when my business gets 20% bigger? Do you become less involved or more involved? Because in a genuinely scalable business, growth should eventually create leverage, more capability, more management capacity, better systems, clearer decisions, better information. The founder should gradually be able to operate at a higher level. But in a founder-dependent business, the opposite happens. Every new customer creates more questions. Every new employee creates more coordination. Every new service creates more complexity. And every new layer of complexity creates more demand on the founder. So revenue goes up, headcount goes up, and the founder's workload goes up with it. And that's not really scale, it's amplification. You've taken the original founder-led business and made it bigger, including its dependency on you. And this is where founders can end up trying to solve the wrong problem. They think they need better time management, maybe another hire, another piece of software, or perhaps they just need to delegate more. Sometimes those things help, but they don't necessarily solve the underlying problem. Because the real question isn't, how do I get more things off my plate? The real question is, why does the organization need me involved in those things in the first place? And that's a completely different question. Maybe nobody actually owns the decision. Maybe authority hasn't been transferred. Maybe people have responsibility but don't have permission to act. Maybe the information required to make that decision only exists in your head. Maybe there isn't a clear operating rhythm. Maybe nobody else can see what you can see. Or maybe the business has simply developed around the assumption that eventually you'll sort it out. Those are structural problems. And structural problems aren't solved by the founder working harder. They're solved by changing how the business operates. That's the transition I think a lot of founders eventually have to make. From being the person who makes the business work to building a business that knows how to work. That doesn't mean disappearing. And it certainly doesn't mean becoming some completely hands-off owner who doesn't know what's happening. Quite the opposite. You should probably have better visibility than you've ever had. But visibility isn't the same thing as involvement. I want a founder to be able to look at the business and know, where are we going? Are we on track? Where are the problems? Who owns them? What decisions genuinely need my involvement? And just as importantly, which decisions don't? That's strategic control, and it's very different from operational dependency. So if your business is growing right now, but you're finding yourself becoming more involved rather than less, don't automatically assume that's just the price of growth. It might be telling you something. Your business may not actually be scaling yet. It may simply be getting bigger. And the earlier you recognize that, the easier it is to change. This is exactly why we built Founders Command. It's for founders who have built a successful business, but have reached the point where the business still depends too heavily on them to operate, make decisions, and keep moving. The objective isn't to help you squeeze another hour out of your day. It's to help you build a business that can operate effectively without requiring you at the center of everything. So if you've recognized your business in anything I've talked about today, there's a link to Founders Command below this video. Take a look and ask yourself one question. Am I building a business that scales, or am I simply building a bigger business that still depends on me?